order. This is the special Board of Ed meeting, our budget workshop number 3. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Smalla, would you like to lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start with public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment? Great. Going once. Public comment going twice. Public comment a third time. This closes the public comment. Next, we have discussion and possible action regarding the budget. And Dr. Compton, you're going to present your recommendations.
Yes. I would first like to start off regarding the PowerPoint presentation. Several of you can't see it. If you want to come over here and stand, it's not too long, but I think it does a good job showcasing the great administrators we have, staff and students. So I just want to welcome everybody to hear this presentation. This is something that the Board of Ed heard at our last meeting, the needs assessment. We talked about basically what we need as far as mandates. And I'll have to give my administrators credit. They also have helped me think out of the box as well. We've really been a team. So thank you for your intellect and great teamwork. So I want to start out by first saying, in the notebooks, and this will be covered in the presentation, the first sheet is basically what Mr. Bucci and I call the Cliff Notes version of what I call the superintendent's budget that I'm recommending tonight for consideration. This is something I know you'll talk about next week when you have hopefully the last working budget, where you as a Board of Ed will decide exactly the percentage number and moving forward. So I would like for you to just look, if you remember from the last week's budget, Mr. Bucci shared the roll forward budget, exactly what does it take to be status quo and hold the same basic staffing that we've had in the past, and that was at a 4.9. So I thought I would be creative, think out of the box, look at the areas that we possibly consider trying to cut a little bit, and try to make a percentage that can go out and be recommended to you, hopefully on to the Board of Finance, and on that something that the taxpayers would support. All increases, it's going up everywhere. I don't know if you've been following the budgets from the different school districts. It's very tough times. There's different groups out there going for 4.5, 5%, 6.5, even 7%. So if you haven't had a chance to look at other districts, do that as well. Because what we've really got to keep in mind is that we're really in tough times right now. We're trying to do the best that we can with what we have and try to be physically responsible. And I think that's what's most important. But with this one-page sheet, which I call the basic, it's a summative of what I want us to look at tonight. We'll discuss this further after I go through the PowerPoint presentation. But if you'll look, I am recommending a budget down at the amount of what I'm recommending as the superintendent's budget. So, and that is the amount of $43,291,819. So, what follows in the next two sheets, it's in your notebook, is basically the summative of all of the areas, and it shows you the past budget year and roll forward budget, and basically what I'm presenting tonight with the areas, a few percentage areas that I would like for us to consider reducing from what we currently have. I also want to mention, I attended 2 superintendent meetings on Friday. One was online Friday morning with the Education Commissioner, and she is hopeful, not sure, but she is hoping that the governor will make increases in special ed in regards with the excess grant as well as the other grants that they're looking at and offering. So we'll see what happens. Let's hope this follows through. Same thing that was discussed in our SCAPA superintendent's meeting on Friday afternoon as well, talked about the priorities. There also, who knows, the legislators may look at educational cost sharing again, possibly increase when you see the 169 surrounding towns. I'm not sure exactly what will happen, but it could be considered. But we can't count on that because we don't have any of that. We can only deal with what we have. But it does look like the governor is possibly going to do something as it relates to special education. We love all of our children, from whether it's special ed to the most gifted. They all fall under special population. For those of you that do not know, our special ed budget currently is $11 million. This is an issue that is throughout the state of Connecticut and the nation because we're not getting the funding support that we need from the state as well as from the federal government as well. So let me just talk through this and let's showcase what we have here in Seymour. So I wanted to start with the title. Want to stand up and see this? Okay. So truly, it's investing in our future. As we always say, our Seymour students are our most precious assets. And I'm so thankful for the Board of Ed that we have, and that your focus is always on what is best for students. And I can't say that enough. You supported me over the past 4.5 years, and your vision is always what's best for kids. So we're investing in our future, excellence, innovation, and opportunity. It's all about growing them for the future. I want to just, again, emphasize our board members. Our 9 here, Krista Bruno is chairperson, Chris Champagne is vice chair, Kristen Harmley is secretary. We've also had Ed Stramello serve as a former board chair. Jay Hatfield is a former vice chair. We've had Ed Stefan as a secretary. A lot of our board members have all been leadership. You serve in K roles, and it's very important. Also, thanks to Mr. Bucci, this past last Wednesday and Thursday, I kept walking the halls telling Mr. Bucci. And I said, you know, we've got to try to think through this. We've got to look and see where we're at. And so both evenings, we spent some hours on this budget again. Okay, we know what our mission is. It's about growing our students, their future learners, and we want to educate and inspire them. It's just a picture from a past graduation. What's our purpose? I think this is something the whole town of Seymour is on the same page. Seymour, be proud of your schools. When you look back and you reflect on the excellence that has, all the things that have been accomplished about Seymour Public Schools is pretty amazing. And that is a special thank you to the parents, the grandparents, the school community, the Board of Education, the town, and the voters. It's all about, we're all in this together, and we've got to producing our end results, which are our student success. And I just want to tell you, we're very proud of what they've accomplished. Again, pictures of graduation, very proud. Okay, let's look at a district profile of our district. Currently, right now, we're around 2,060 students. Here's something that most people don't realize. Our per pupil amount is going down. What is happening, we are trying to maintain on what we have. You'll look at a neighboring district like Oxford, they're almost up to around 17, 18,000 per student. We're currently, our elementary now is 13,663, and a middle and high school student is $14,358. So I just want you to look at where we stand. It's, we're not high up, and we're doing the best with what we have, and I think everybody's to be commended for working with what we have, the resources we're given. Also, it's important with the diversity of our town. With Chatfield Lopresti alone, we have 21 different languages. And we love our children, all of them. Okay, strategic plan. This is where we're moving with our strategic plan. First of all, it's all about student achievement, school climate and culture, communication and community partnerships, learning environments, infrastructure, and physical stability. We talked some at the last meeting about facilities, and I know that the town is going to be open to working with us about facilities. So I'm glad you're here tonight, Mr. Miller, and I know you were at the last meeting, so thank you. Okay, the historical enrollment from NESAC. It shows us that we're not really growing that much in enrollment. I do think there's going to be more living in Seymour, so I anticipate down the road possibly a growth in enrollment. But right now, NESAC is not saying we're just pretty much basically status quo. Okay. Also, we have some kids from the high schools that are starting to attend more of the vocational tech schools due to some changes. So you have that variable as well. Again, this is a projected data. You can see it in your book. This is just a snapshot of what is our enrollment. Where are we again at 2,060 students? The elementary projected class size is basically, we're recommending no different from last year. But if you remember, we cut 3 teaching positions from our budget. It was hard, it was difficult. So immediately we did 3 cuts, one at Bungay Elementary, one at Chatfield Lopresti, and then also a position at the middle school. So here's where we are. Okay, this is just what I'm asking. I'm asking for a 4.7% increase. This is, folks, this is for us to maintain. This amount does not need to be lowered by the Board of Finance or any individual in the town. This is what our kids need, and this is what I'm basically begging for, is a 4.7. And again, salaries and benefits and all of that with our staff, and that's typical of any school district. I don't care where you go in the nation, 78% is pretty much the percentage for personnel. Now, right, Sal? I can remember once when it was 70, but those days are far gone now. Right. Now, when you look at the roll forward budget, the pie graph basically still stays the same, even though that we went down 2/10. This graph, Salvatore has a handout he's going to share with you that have, with a correction of where I'm asking. This was the rollover budget, which was 4.9%. Sal has now made the correction in the graphs, and he's going to pass it around, and it's showing the 4.7, and it's showing the areas. Certified staff, 1.7%, non-certified, 0.4%, health insurance premiums, the increase, 1.8%. So it's showing you all of the increases.
This is the new one with the reduction to 4.7.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay, the first page that I gave you, which I called the Cliff Notes version, this is where I really want you to look at closely because this drives it all. When you look down here at legal fees, we're recommending to bring it down 20,000. It's my recommendation. In supplies, which basically is dealing with some instructional books, a combination of different things, is $30,000. And energy with electricity, Salvatore we were able to look at it very closely, and we think overall that we can squeeze it down basically to do some savings there as well. But basically, it's right on the same. So property and liability insurance right now as well. So just looking at that. So these are the numbers, these are the areas that we can cut, and it's not going to make that bigger impact. It's just legally it's hard, but we don't have contracts. The only contracts we have coming up for negotiations is a nurse's contract. So we have a great law firm, and they do a great job, and we'll just try to make sure we keep the legal costs down as much as possible. So this is where we're at. Again, this is just a summarized summative on the budget as a whole and the breakdown. You can see. Again, the second page, and that sums it up. So basically, it's a 3-page summative that comes up with how many pages are in a rollover budget book. About 52, right? Okay. So what's the guiding principles that this is based on? First of all, we must have a high-quality educational program that serves all of our students. Another thing is identify and prioritize opportunities to improve operational efficiencies, develop a budget that is respectful of and responsive to taxpayers, and collaborate with the town to pursue cost-sharing opportunities. Try to work together on some things to save money. Okay. Basically, our numbers got out of whack there a little bit, but that's okay. These are all the ICES principles. Okay, the key budget drives. What are the drivers? It's salary and benefits, which is 78% of this budget. Okay, preparation for the increasing student needs and resources. Taking all the monies, what little monies we have, also with grants, which basically there have become very few grants. We're basically talking title grants and Perkins grants and special ed grants. So we're very limited there. Special education costs, both in district and out of district, and then the rising transportation costs. I always say we have the best transportation contract with All-Star in the entire state. So the only thing I can tell you in regards with special education, Dr. Little, I want to say a big thank you to you, because at the last week's meeting, you said, you know, we are starting to bring some students back that have been placed out of district, and we're bringing students back, and we are. So that is a cost savings. When we can do this, this is great. It's great for the kids, it's great for the parents, but sometimes an out-of-district placement is the best placement, and sometimes we need to bring them back. So that can be a cost savings. So here is just a synopsis again of staffing costs. Let's talk about health insurance premiums. We are on the state health plan now. At the superintendent's meeting, we had the opportunity to talk to the main state guy that oversees the state health plan. And there was quite a bit of different feedback about several districts are looking and wanting to go on the state plan. But right now, our premiums look like they're 13.5. I wanted to go down to 12.5, but that was a little too risky, right, Sal? He said, Dr. Coleman, that just won't work. We can't go to 12.5. But 13.5 is a good number. So insurance is an issue everywhere. I don't care where you're at. Tuition and transportation, basically, we've had an $81,299 increase. And we're hoping now that we have 3 buses that we've worked with the town and that the school district has purchased, and also with the town helping us that we're going to be able to cut some costs with some athletic things, especially with baseball and a few other things, because we technically take our baseball team back and forth for the field. Okay, what are the staffing mandates? What do we have to have here in Seymour? First of all, we have to have a high school media specialist. It's coming, is it next week, Mr. Lucky? The week after that?
This Friday.
This Friday. This Friday, they're coming to talk to us, and they want to see a media specialist put in as soon as possible. Mr. Lucky has been working very diligently, working very hard to prepare what we think a 21st century media specialist area will look like. So we'll share that with the board later, but we have to have this. We put them off a few years ago, basically said we're doing a STEM, innovative lab at the corner of the media center, and the bottom line is we have to have a librarian. When I first came here, there had not been a media specialist. Then through ESSER funds with COVID, a person was hired at 0.5 at the middle school here and a 0.5 at the high school. After those funds replenished, that within that year, we had to let that go. So that's currently where we are. We have to have this. A speech and language pathologist right now, we have caseloads into the 60s. So we have really increased. A lot of it is due to preschool. With our preschool program, and this is very important that you have early intervention and that the caseloads have to be within compliance. We can't do our speech pathologists this way in an overload. So we've done pretty good. We've only increased like a 0.5 since I've been here, and we're now 4.5 years and going into the 5th year. So we need a speech pathologist. We also need 3 more para-educators for our care program. We're going to have 3 care rooms next year at Chatfield and Preston. And the staffing allocation on one, you'll see 2, but that was just carried over from last year. We have to have 3 based upon the needs of our children. And it's been a very successful program, but it needs more support. Okay, where are we as far as requirements and retirements and so forth? We have 2 great teachers that are retiring. 2 great teachers. So right now, the high school teacher, science teacher is retiring, and our language arts consultant at Chatfield and Preston is retiring. At this time, we're recommending that we cut 1 science teacher, and that position will become the media specialist, working within our means. The other thing is special education positions will be funded through the returning of some outplaced students. Not all of them out of district are not all coming back. They don't need to because we've got to meet their needs. But we think there could be enough cost savings. And I truly believe that special ed, we're going to get money from somewhere from the state. Okay, what is it that we celebrate? Well, it's all about the kids. Here's our valedictorian and salutatorian. You ought to be so proud. Our last valedictorians, the last 4 years, you've had 2 that are at Yale. Last year, the one that just graduated, he had three schools, Harvard, MIT, or Yale, and being a Seymour High School graduate. Also this year, Mr. Lucky, and as we talked about at the last board meeting, our valedictorian has now been accepted to Yale. How many small little towns that have a small high school do you see with this type of Ivy League acceptance? It's not all about Ivy League graduates and where they go. It's about all of our kids, because the career and technical pathways that have been done at Seymour High School have been outstanding. It's about what is most appropriate for each and every child. So, something too, but I had to just compliment that. A great graduating class last year. It's just very important to emphasize that. Okay, College Board, AP. I'm very much big on AP. I think a lot of kids need to be challenged and given the opportunity. And there's so many kids, once they get into whether it's world history or whatever, once they try an AP course, they gain the confidence and it shows they do better in college. So where are we on the AP? As you know, we were awarded the Silver Award with the AP Honor Award. Last year was the Bronze Award. So we have 41 scholars that we celebrated at the last board meeting, those that were here. We have 20 AP scholars with 3 or better, AP scholars with honor, and then we have 15 with distinction. Okay, we're very proud for 2023 and 24, and now this past year, our current year, 25 and 26. Mr. Lucky and I was so proud when that email opened up and said congratulations. So again, named one of the best U.S. high school, and again, bronze and silver. Schools of distinction. Be very proud, Board of Ed. Be very proud, Town of Seymour. You have 2 schools of distinction, elementary. Also, I must say, we're very proud of the middle school, Mr. O'Rourke, because you were one of the 6 in the state that did receive an AI grant, and also with the math grant that Mr. Lucky worked on. So this is just very important to emphasize. So I want to say that how proud that we are of our kids, and the middle school did great gains in 8th grade math. It was amazing. Okay, we're also proud for 2 years in a row, we were selected with the red, white, and blue. It's a state partnership award with the state and the Department of Education. I think next year they won't be having this because of cutting grants, but we'll see. If it's still eligible, we'll apply again. Okay, we're very proud that Mr. Lucky last year was, again, it was named the Assistant Principal of the Year. That was a great celebration. And again, these were our top 10 Seymour High School students. And I was so proud this year of our Seymour Educator of the Year. We got to go in December and celebrate that. Our first time ever school counselor. So we're very proud of Jess. Okay, how about our kids? Well, they all had the opportunity to ride the bus, but not all of them were on the bus. This is the exact amount of breakfast and lunches that are served. What's some of the accomplishments, as you can see? In 2022, Lauren Reed, who's now the principal, was the Assistant Elementary Principal of the Year. And then back in 2017, Ernie DeStacy was the middle school assistant principal. So you've had 3 assistant principals that were honored by CAS. And we have 2 now that are our principals. Again, the schools of distinction, Hall of Fame. I cannot say enough about our Kathy Fedd. Both her and Paul Sponheimer are being inducted to the Hall of Fame. Mr. Hatfield and I had the opportunity to be with her and them for the first recognition. Okay, and then again, some assistant coaches. We've had great sports programs here as well. Okay, what sets us apart? Well, we have a lot of special programs that are great. KinderCats. We love the KinderCat program. Mrs. Brown's done an exceptional job. Again, our preschool program has been amazing in the growth and what we have done. And I wanted to see that program really get off the ground. The administration and the teachers have made it happen. So that was one of my wishes when I came here. Also our REACH program and CARE program. Okay, this is something that we're very proud of. It's all about the cars. And the kids at the high school have just done an extraordinary job. Again, this is just an example of some of the STEM that is going on at Seymour High School. The robotics, the engineering, cars, and of course the CAD design. And it just shows there's something for every child. If you're keeping up with the news, they're telling that even your most accomplished AP kids ought to be in some of these courses, and it's showing that. And also the amount of kids that are going into careers and trades are doing an associate degree. So something for everyone. Okay, this again, with the EMT program and some of the forensic science things they do, we're extremely proud of the Griffin Allied Health Program. You remember we brought that program in 3 years ago. And I'm just so proud. I want to say a special thank you to Griffin Hospital. And also Static was a big pusher and really helped us get this program. So we want to say thank you. Also the Europe trip. Some of our high school kids were able to go on the European trip. And again, girls state and boys state. We always honor our kids. Also, with the Kindness Initiative, we've done this now 3 years in a row. And it's just a way to express the importance of being kind to one another. We might disagree, but we can still be kind. So I think that's important to really emphasize. Also, I did mention, we had a national merit. I should have had this in the slide. We'll do it when the Board of Ed presents to the Board of Finance. We have a National Commendable Scholar this year, okay? We had 3 the year before, and then over the years, we've had several. Kristen, your daughter was one of those. Okay, so here's just the spotlight. Our debate team's done really well. Our guitar program's done well. All the advanced ensembles. We really need to work on a band program at the high school. This is something that we saw up on Facebook, and we thought this was really cute. This is looking at them when they were little, and they're going to be walking across that field, across that stage. It's 2026, Seymour High School graduates. But it just gives you a little synopsis of where are they going? What are they going to be doing? And it just shows our success and our kids and their areas, okay? It's about each and every kid. They're all unique. Okay, and again, it's about the best learning environment that we can provide for our children. And I just want to say this is not easy. I feel that we have a lot to be thankful for with the referendum passing in town for a new Bundy school. We got a lot of stuff that is going on. Times are hard right now. And we want to still make sure, though, that we provide quality educational program for our kids first and foremost. So just looking at this, I think in depth, Salvatore, do you want to help me out here a little bit? And we'll just discuss the areas of where you and I felt this was the best way to go from 4.9 to 4.7. I want to say, and just in closing, I'm asking everybody that we need the support of our school budget. We need everybody in the town that can. We always appreciate those that support our school budget. We want everybody all on the same page, working together. First select woman, the select persons, Mr. Miller, your role, Chief Administrative Officer, and we just want to work together, and we're trying to make sure that certain funding that we're covered. But there are certain things that we can't afford to pay for that we want to, but we're just doing the best we can with what we have. I don't think we're going to know any answers from the state until the next 2 months. I don't know what will happen. It's hard to say. But I will say this in closing. Our governor needs to definitely have, it's his #1 priority in the state of Connecticut, the schools and public schools in Connecticut. They've always been at the top with Massachusetts and New Jersey. I don't want to see Connecticut fall. The rich districts don't have a problem, and in the alliance districts don't have a problem. It's the districts that are falling in the middle. So the governor needs to absolutely focus on educational funding, period. I just think it's most important. Okay, so Sal, you want to explain that again?
Okay, so all the cuts that occurred since the roll forward budget are down in the non-education section, as Dr. Compton explained. We looked at the legal fees. So the budget originally this year was $125,000, but this year we had 4 collective bargaining sessions. And then we also have a provision for general education, and then there's a provision for special education as it relates to legal fees. Dr. Compton feels the way things have been progressing over the last several years, we've managed to every year reduce legal fees, get them down as it relates to the day-to-day ongoing operating issues as it relates to general education, special education. We only have, as Dr. Compton mentioned, one collective bargaining agreement this year for nurses. And we are hoping that that is going to not be a protracted situation, and hopefully it will not incur a lot of expenses. So we took the budget from last time, 125 down to 85. We cut 40,000, and we just added another 20,000. Actually, we cut it 45 last time. We cut another 20,000. We now have a $65,000 budget. And frankly, Dr. Compton feels that's sufficient, and I agree with her. Since the last meeting, I think as I mentioned in the one of the budget sessions, probably the first one, we had negotiated a new contract with Constellation with respect to reducing energy costs roughly 2.25 cents, 3.5 cents. That went into effect in November. We got those first bills this month for the November to December period. And we can see clearly the decrease in the charges that relate to the usage, where that 2.5 cents will come into play. That'll save us on average in the district between about 50 to 55,000. We burn about 2.5 million kilowatt hours here in the district, so each penny is $25,000. We think it's going to be roughly about 60,000. I've also been tracking this public benefit to see if it's actually beginning to lessen. It has been lessened somewhat this year than it did last year. So I said to Dr. Compton, look, I only put in a 5% provision for 2 schools for electricity and 1 for gas. Now, gas is increasing, but it's not increasing at the rate that we were able to decrease electricity. So I said to him, I think we will be fine next year if we don't add anything additional to this year's energy costs, and we can mitigate any increases in usage or any other charges that may flow through with the reductions that we've gotten from this new contract that runs out for 4 years. So we eliminated the provision in here for the $27,000 of electricity increase. Property insurance, I had a provision there for 10%. As I mentioned in the first meeting, this year's costs were actually a reduction over last year, and it doesn't appear that the way the markets are right now, I think a 5% increase on the insurance would be certainly prudent. I don't think 0% on insurance is really prudent, but we don't make claims. We have a very excellent rating. So I recommended to her that we reduce the 10% to 5% and decrease it from a $33,000 provision to $16,500. Aside from that, Dr. Compton explained the $30,000 as it relates to the supplies. Some of that is usable supplies, which we have been hammering on for the last 3 or 4 years in terms of doing bulk buys, reducing over the overall expenditure in supplies, and we've reduced the budgets not only for the school, but we've also reduced just how much we're buying in terms of usable supplies as well as educational supplies. We do what we can, putting some of these educational supplies into grants where they appear, where they are. And we feel that we can probably get this down another $30,000. And again, we had more conversations about this. If I disagreed with Dr. Compton's recommendation, I would have said so to her. And so we agree on these numbers here. I just I told her I didn't agree with the reducing
The insurance.
healthcare down a point because a couple of things are in play there. One is, I really think it's going to be 13.5% because the state told us that they were anticipating that. And the second is, we just had 2 more people who used qualifying life events that occur in their life to jump onto our plan effective February the 1st. So my concern in that arena is not necessarily that it might be more than 13.5%, or even it might be a half a point less. It's that it's a very popular plan. It provides extraordinary health care. Everyone loves it. It costs a fortune. So, you know, we have to just be mindful of the fact that it could expand more, but on the other hand, I think we have to be prudent on what we put against employee benefits at large. And that's really just the changes since last time.
All right. Open it up to questions.
No, I think it's a reasonable amount. I would support this.
So I just want to clarify, the only changes that are actually happening within the district in terms of staffing and services provided is the addition of 3 paraprofessionals to staff the new CARES room. The CARES room teacher will be coming from existing staff. And then we're down a science teacher at the high school to add a full-time library media specialist.
Yes.
So all the other needs that were put forth by our 4 schools are not in play.
No, they're not priority ones, and the other thing, a speech pathologist is in that as well.
And that's being also funded by hopefully bringing students back.
Yes, yes. I think we're at the crossroads where we got to live within our means, but we truly cannot go down any lower than this, honestly, with what we have. We don't need to cut any more existing positions. We can't. That's going to get into our support services and our programs, and we can't. And that's why I said this is realistic, this is practical, and this is what we must have to really maintain. I think the administrators were good in regards in helping me think out of the box with what we have and trying to make the best with the resources that we have. Because we want something that the taxpayers out there are going to support, and a number that within our means of what we can do to maintain. And let's hope the governor does something. I really hope education cost sharing, apparently they haven't done much since 2013, so I'm going to pass this around. I didn't come here to 2021, but, you know, the funding for education, he needs to wake up and prioritize our kids. Sorry to be so blunt, but that needs to be improved, and definitely special education.
Any other board members have questions?
I just want to speak a little bit to what Dr. Compton said about the governor. It also behooves us to reach out to our legislators. It can't all be put on the governor.
That's true.
We need to also speak
just
to
one
our
part.
legislators and encourage our legislators to step forward for the districts they represent and the students and the teachers and administrators that are in their respective areas. That was a big discussion this morning, setting the priorities of CABE when we talked about reaching out to, to the legislators in person.
Yeah.
More so than online. And I sound like an old person.
No, it's just critical, and thanks, Ed, for saying that. It's so important because he can't do it all, the legislation they have to pass. This is something too with, Kate did a nice job with summarizing some stuff here. And so did the School Superintendent's Association about priorities. I mean, we've cut so many positions since I've been here. This board and I have cut down to the bone, and we just, like I said, we're doing the best we have with what we have. And I think we definitely have to be physically, again, responsible. And that's why I think a budget around this area of percentage is the right thing to do. And we know we have facility needs, and I know that the town, I know Mr. Miller and I had a nice conversation in regards about with facilities and trying to make sure in the future that the town is going to do their best as well with what they can. You want to make any comment, Kurt?
I know we're looking at some creative potential. We're looking at some different options with some solar projects, where the solar projects would not be part of the budget, that would be put aside in special revenue. And any of the money that's generated above and beyond would go into a special fund that would be utilized by a joint, we'll say, select person, Board of Ed group that would decide how to spend the money only on facilities. So it gives an opportunity to have chunks of money, but we're still exploring in the early phases of that. One of the ones that we're looking at is actually a file contract with Eversource, so we would put up carports, and Eversource would commit over a 20-year period to buying electricity. So you would know what your expenses were, you'd have a good projection of revenue, and then from there, people could build up facilities capital plan to address some of these bigger ticket needs. So it's just things like that that we're trying to come up with solutions.
And some of the needs and stuff, they'll have a working session and come, we'll work on that.
I think we want to learn, if I can just make a comment about that, I think we want to learn from our experience with Bungie, that I think there were a lot of people on the boards in the town that didn't know about the condition of the school and the things that needed to be done. Is our board going to present some of the facilities needs to the Board of Finance? Is the town presenting something in terms of a strategic plan or the facilities needs? Even if they can't be funded in this year, we need to talk about them publicly.
Yeah, they want to prioritize, and that's the same thing that Mr. Miller and First Select Woman have discussed, is looking and prioritizing the things that are the most needed, just like you all had discussed at the last meeting and meetings prior, to come together and really prioritize with the capital plan and also the town strategic plan and our strategic plan, and how the facilities part, that we have to have the funding support from the town. So I think they want to have a meeting that, you've got a facilities committee, but also I think it'd be good to just have a whole working session with you as a Board of Ed first, and then discuss, and then like he said, maybe 3 members from the Board of Ed, maybe 4, because 5 is a quorum, and then, just work with the town as well. I know the First Select Woman has had concerns about the pool and the locker rooms and other areas, and the Bungie situation where Bungie, it's a very old building, and making sure that we're staying on top of things, just like with the turf field. Now the money's there. It was supposed to be an agreement that the money was supposed to be set aside. Well, it didn't happen with either group or the whatever, but we're past that. Thank goodness for the ESSER funds and ARPA and all that. I wasn't here for all that. We do know that our number one priority with facilities is the field is going to be finished this summer, and we're so proud that, again, that that's going to be taken care of, but we got to have track. So I think we're going to talk about, there's a possibility of what I'd like to come through with the track recommendation. So, because it's in bad shape. So we listened, and I did mention it, and it's something I think we just got to sit at the table and say, money's got to be set aside each year. That's all I know, but I know they see the need, Anything else, Kurt, you can think of?
No, as part of the budget summit, one of the exercises that the staff does is they're given a certain amount of money, they can create a 5-year capital plan. And we introduce certain elements of building repairs and maintenance into the exercise. So they had to think through and come up with ways to do that. So not only to support their initial capital needs of their departments, but also some of them globally at the town and how we would address some of these buildings. What came out of that is there's a need for 2 pools. One, to kind of catch us up in certain areas, and Dr. Cochran mentioned a lot, that as an example. But at the same time, you can't maintain schools on, $120,000 a year at a town, and we can't do it at 80. So how do we come up with a solution to be able to reinvest in the buildings every single year so they don't get to that state of disrepair? So
So
that
will
was their
that,
exercise. They didn't have a perfect answer for it, but they're all starting to think through it and start to get it, so.
so will that live in the first selectwoman's budget presentation, or where does that planning enter into this process?
I don't know where it'll be this year. At this point, right now, it's just kind of more conversational.
Yeah.
But we're starting to take the steps. As I said, some of these projects are going to be outside the budget. We can also look at some potential, some type of borrowing or debt issue, because we do have a couple of those coming up. So how can we do that? Can we readjust some of the capital items that we currently have? So there's no real set idea yet. Again, as Dr. Cochran said, we're kind of in the early stages of really kicking this around. But, what's the best way to attack it? Because again,
Yeah.
I think we can all come up with $2 or $3 million of needs that is needed across the board. But at the same time, how do we maintain enough people we currently have outside of that on kind of a recurring basis? So, we have to break down the silo. I'll say, I don't know how everybody loves that, but town building is a town building, whether it's town hall or this building, there's no difference. So we have to go back to looking at all these buildings globally, and just repairing them all and coming up with the best, most efficient way to do that.
And I think that also starts with facility walkthroughs too. So I think that's important too, and
So I have a question that goes on that, through the chair for Mr. Miller or anybody. So when you talked about they were doing, if you had X amount of money, what would you do? So schools were included in that, and it was shared with that group of people, all of the needs that we saw listed in one of the documents last week about all of the school needs from a facilities perspective?
No, so, this legislature, I apologize. What they do is they present their plans, they present their capital plans, and they go through, and then we have everything put up on the wall. And then at the end, we give them 45 minutes to create this plan. So they created the plan and came up with how they would spend this money, and nothing had anything to do with buildings. So then the second part of that exercise was we introduced buildings. So what would you do to maintain not only the town buildings, but the Board of Education buildings?
So that was
So it
my
was
question.
more generic.
Was board, because
No.
we don't have a capital budget, right?
Correct.
So we've never been,
Correct.
we've never dedicated our time to a capital planning exercise because we don't have a capital budget exercise of futility. So I just wanted to ensure that on the town side, at least people are including, because there is a full documented list of what the needs of our 4 buildings are.
and
Yeah.
Okay.
and they haven't seen the most recent updated that was shared about the high school, and I'm going to send that and share that as well with just the things that were listed, and
Yeah, I mean,
again,
it should be there, right?
Yeah.
Because, we've got a shared position. The person who runs facilities for the town also runs them from the school, so
He was a part of the exercise.
yeah, yeah.
So he was able to speak.
because at some point, we're just gonna need to understand what's gonna be put out for a vote to incur debt and what that timeline is, because we just keep kicking it down the road. And so, obviously, the big one next is Bungay School. That's been voted on, but we've got to have another kind of plan in place for when we can take on debt to do some of these major repairs.
And that's what he was
We have
addressing.
two
Yeah.
phases. There's that debt for the bigger ticket, but we still need to build, we need to have
Absolutely.
recurring funds.
Yeah.
To address problems every year so they don't get.
Yeah, of course.
to that
of course.
point. But same with our roads and fire trucks and everything else, so. But Emery's very much, the first select one is very much pushing us to come up with solutions for that. So.
And looking at the school buildings and the grounds and track and
conversation about the legal fees because we're cutting that line item in half for this year, knowing that, based on an understanding of the number of contract negotiations we have, what that means is that in future years, it may look like it's doubling because of the number of contract negotiations. So I just want, the members of the Board of Finance, the members of the public
Everybody to understand.
that they may see more fluctuation in that column because we're cutting it so close. In our
And that's
projections.
an excellent point too, and same thing when the town does their different contracts with the police and fire and all that. Yeah, it's an excellent point because it would be much more.
And will be. in,
Yeah,
3
absolutely.
years from now,
Yeah.
when all the ones that
And
we
all the
negotiated this
time.
year, it may be a 300% increase.
Yeah, yeah.
Because just of the work that's required that year.
In the detailed page of the budget, we break it down between general education, special education, and collective bargaining. So in the years in which we are going to be looking at several collective bargaining agreements only at one time, we can point to the increase specifically on that line for that item for that year. And then hopefully calibrate it when we don't have. And I know this year the committee tried to spread out some of the collective bargainings. For instance, the custodians went for a 4-year transaction, so they're not now going to be aligned with the other 3 that we did this year. So the idea is to maybe perhaps see if we can stretch this out a little, just to make the legal fees a little bit more consistent, so that, and the effort every year with collective bargaining to not occupy so much time of all the volunteers, as well as the hired hands who are spending time trying to make sure we can get these deals done within the prescribed time frame.
I have a question. With regard to legal fees, is our arrangement with them strictly billable hours, or are there flat fees that they charge for any services?
So,
It's technically, it's hourly. We're really not much on a retainer type of thing, and it's worked out pretty well. We're very conservative. Dr. Boyle and I, in regards with, when we call, it's absolutely necessary most of the time. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 times that maybe I could have made out without calling, but when in doubt, you're better off. So basically, it's hourly billing.
and I will say that
We've cut a lot
the
legal
are
costs.
reasonable
Yeah.
in terms of the fees that they charge on an hourly basis for their partners, for their associates, et cetera. They're nowhere near the figures I was used to before I came here that are billed in the commercial world. Okay, so they are calibrated to municipalities, they're calibrated to boards of education. I look at the bills, Dr. Compton approves all the bills, and I don't see anything, there's certainly nothing unreasonable. In fact, I think in some cases, they've done a pretty good job for the dollars that they're spending, that we're spending, for the services that they're giving us.
Yeah. I think they've been very reasonable with what, and great legal advice.
So if I could, in the spirit of letting the public know some of the things that were in the needs assessment, in the off chance that we do get more special education money from the state than we did, it's not a case of, okay, now we have extra money, because there were some things that were on level 1 priority in both our secondary schools. So the middle school asked for really a support system to support students academically, and that was consisting for Mr. O'Rourke of 2 certified instructional support roles with another English language learner teacher, and then also some tutors to build out a full SRBI and intervention support program. And I certainly commend him for going big with the ask, because if you're not going to go big, why bother? And so that is a critical need as identified Mr. O'Rourke. So if extra money comes in, that is a place that we would think about as a board, I would hope, slotting it in. And then at the high school, there was also a level 1 critical need, and that was specifically to add a part-time part-time. Mr. Lucky, I'm sure you would love a full-time, but you went for a part-time CWE teacher. And I want to share that I was not aware last year that you actually could not expand the CWE program in the way you wanted without that position. And that was probably a misunderstanding that I had. But I feel like with both of our secondary schools, the progress that has been made there is just amazing. And typically what happens when somebody's got momentum like this, you want to keep putting some force on that so it keeps going the way it's going. So with all the work that we've done at the high school to support career and technical education, to not have that position, to take it to the next level, I think would be a shame. And also, what was your other priority one?
But also, let me intercede here just a second
Media
to,
sciences.
yeah, about scheduling. Sometimes with really progressive scheduling and looking very in-depth, there could be the possibility to where the person could still be freed up 2 hours a day. It's something, not sure if it can work, but it's something that, you know, we want to continue to look at. It's something we do want to see in place. Right now, our priority has to be a media specialist. We've also talked about another type of alternative type of special ed program similar to RISE at the middle school, and a lot of that would depend upon if we have increased funding with special ed. And also, too, in looking at Title I monies and seeing what comes from the feds in regards with tutors and an example of the elementaries, there's possibly two that can go to the middle school, just as a backup plan with what we have. So it's just ways to try to use what we have, but yeah, would we want that? Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think the important message
Yeah.
for people to hear is that
What the needs
4.7
are.
is 4.7, but
Yes.
if we can realize some savings in one place, it doesn't mean that now it can go less.
Yeah.
It means we're gonna put that money that we've saved someplace into one of these needs that have been shared with
Yeah.
us and that you've shared with us.
And that's an excellent point, absolutely, if we can get some more money, yeah, because based upon what we have. And also, too, the public needs to know how many positions have been cut here the last 4 years. It's been a lot.
And this should not be the first time they're hearing about the library media specialist.
No.
I think we have to trust the wisdom of the community and of the other boards in town that, you know, we are making some tough choices, but knowing
Yeah.
that, you know, there are some long-term needs
There
that
are.
when the time is right,
That's right,
need to go into the budget.
yes.
The question about tutors at the middle school, yes, we have schools of distinction at our 2 elementary schools. That's recognizing student growth.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that everybody is at proficiency yet,
No.
and that's really our goal.
No, and still
So
a way,
there's still work to do.
long ways to go as well, absolutely.
That's an important point to put out, because when you say school distinction, it makes it sound like everybody's up here, so you go to the middle school and everybody's fine, but that's not. The school distinction award is based on growth, and there's still more work.
That's absolutely, still a lot more growth and a lot more areas that we need to address.
May I make a comment with respect to the tutors? So, up until this year, the tutors have been almost entirely funded by Title I. Title I has been flat. And we are, right now, have approximately 12 tutors. Our Title I funding is based essentially on 8 tutors. And so again, you know, to the point you were making, you know, in the budget process, it's not about what you know, it's about what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's about what you don't anticipate and what you may not be able to cover in the event that there's an issue. Now, we talk about that in terms of building repairs and maintenance a lot, but it does happen certainly with respect to educational positions. So my concern a little bit is on the Title I grants and as well as the IDEA grant, which we've become accustomed to relying on a certain amount of support every year, each and every year. My concern is obviously as costs increase, as they do for us in the district, if we're not going to see a proportionate increase in this, then we're going to shoulder more of those costs. And so, you know, my thinking, the way I think when I do these budgets is I'm like, all right, what am I not considering here? And what should I be planning for and anticipating? And how are we going to do that when it happens? Because state mandates, just mandates that you have set for the educational system you want. And that's the juggling act. And so, yes, 4.7, I mean, if we, get another supplemental from the state, it's not a windfall.
No,
It's
and it
helping us
wouldn't
to
be.
stay afloat, and it's helping us to not have to cut things that are really important and that we really shouldn't do without, because we're faced with things we can't control that we have to pay for. So I would say overall, I told Dr. Compton, when she said that she was at this 4.7, I said, that will work. We can make it work. We'll just have to be very judicious about how we spend our money, how we monitor our money spending. We've just finished doing a whole slew of mid-year reviews to figure out where we are. There's no point looking at this in May. It's too late. We look now. We try to adjust now and make changes now that we can put ourselves on a track so that when we get to the end of the year, we're within our budget. And that is really the ultimate goal here, is to live, as Dr. Compton says all the time, within our means, and to not at the end of the year have a deficit that we then have to somehow try to figure out how to fill. I think we've been extremely responsible in facing reality and doing what's necessary to be fiscally prudent.
Sorry, through the chair. Anything wrong?
Pardon?
You were done.
Yeah, no.
I didn't want to pick on. For on page 45, the supply section says a decrease of 30, right? Adjustment minus 30. Oh, so where does it say that in the actual?
It's not, there's just one sheet on top of that budget. I didn't change the road budget. In other words, we just took 30,000. We sat
From
back
that.
and back the napkin and we figured out that we could find $30,000 in there in supplies, and that exercise will become a little bit more precise when we get there.
So that's across all of those different accounts.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Like I said, some of it's going to be educational, some of it's going to be actual
Textbooks,
pencils,
yeah.
and all that stuff, and try to get it down. We've been successful in getting,
I just thought it would have been, I guess from what I heard you say, I thought you already had it in here, you had an idea.
well, mainly a lot of it, we're looking at instructional textbooks, but we're looking at each of these areas that we can take some money from in the amount of 30,000.
I'm sorry, I'm not tracking it all, Jay, but not because of you. I don't, where is the 30,000 coming from? Where is it showing? Where is it
No,
not
they
showing?
didn't put it on there, that's what they were.
We didn't, we just said we're going to take it from that area of instructional materials and supplies.
So they just said out of that section,
Yes,
they're gonna take out 30,000, they didn't change that page.
no.
Okay, so this is not what's going to need to go to the Board of Finance.
No, we still
no, as
have
soon
to
as you
vote on it.
guys have
I
a
guess
final
I
Board of
understand
Education
that, but
budget,
yeah, it's still not ready.
yeah, as soon as you have a final Board of Education
Okay.
budget, you'll have a.
That's
We
what
will
I'm
change that and make it specific. And that'll make you feel better specifically. We also can review our purchase orders and our needs with what we have. And exactly, I know my main area here of where most of the 30,000 will come from. But it's in that area that we can make the cut.
Can I just ask, the energy section, that's strictly the cut is based on electric?
Well,
not
all I
like
did was
fuel or
leave-
anything?
No, if you go to the actual budget you have, the roll forward budget, and you go to the page, the energy page, you'll see I only had, on page number 41, it's probably still page 41, it is. If you go to page 41, you will see on the right-hand side, I had only put in 5% for the high school, Jackson Presti on electricity, and then 5% for Bungie increase on gas. Overall, system-wide reductions from the new electricity purchase, as well as where we are with propane, et cetera, that we could avoid those individual increases and just keep the energy a bunch flat. And we'll see savings from the purchase of electricity, and we're hoping there's been a slight downward trend in public benefit. Still there, but I'm starting to see, because what I do each month is I take every electric bill and I put it in a big spreadsheet. So I'm putting in a column that currently has last year's number. So the way I do this is I have all of last year's actuals. Then as I go through the year, I do January, September, October, November, and I put in the actuals, but yet I still have the trailing year. Well, now that I've changed the per kilowatt hour rate, I actually just floated that through the model and said, okay, what's going to happen? Well, this year, we'll probably see $27,000 worth of potential savings because we're only getting about a half a year of this. So I looked at it and I said, I think we're pretty safe if we budget what we budgeted for this year, without any expectation of certainly increase on the usage side. But again, the distribution side is unpredictable. I mean, it's not just public benefit. It's that's where all your infrastructure costs are. That's where essentially they're getting you for the fact that they have to rebuild lines across the state, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what hurt us. Last year, we were almost relatively flat on usage. We had a $101,000 increase in distribution last year. So it was 20% on the distribution and a small, relatively very small number on usage. Well, okay, so 20% is still a big number. So
It's
to
amazing.
go to zero, I have to feel pretty good about going to zero in terms of an increase. And I wouldn't sit here and tell you it's zero if I didn't feel that it was achievable. I don't tend to dig holes for myself.
Can I ask why there's no increase for the middle school for the fuel, but there are for the other three schools?
It's just a function of the way the two schools have been operating and their usage in terms of electricity and in terms of gas.
Yeah.
It really is it's a function of direct data.
Yeah, he keeps a spreadsheet on each of them.
And I send these spreadsheets to Tim. We talk about fluctuations. We talk about controls. We were just exchanging emails about getting a presentation done with respect to the controls at the middle school and at the high school.
It just seems odd that everybody gets a 5% increase not gets, like it's a present, that there's an increase in 3 schools for next year, but not the middle school.
Because there was no need for me to project an increase in the middle school. It was running fairly constant from the way I can see
Hard
it.
to understand.
Yeah.
It's also quite hard to understand
Well-
how Chatfield-Lepresti energy usage is so much higher than the high school when we were told that the geothermal was going to
Well,
save
I
money
don't
for the
know what you
environment.
were told, but I can tell you that Sheffield Presby is not the most efficient school. And so I'm just.
It's a very large facility. It's very, very spread out. So it's like,
So it's more encompasses that, nothing really with buses or?
No.
There's really no
And the buses have been
down.
we've been, I'll tell you, we've been doing very well with maintaining except for the 1-year spike where we were at $1.65 on propane. We went down 42 cents last year and we're pretty much
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say,
We're
isn't
staying there.
things going down, like,
They went down.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of leveled off. We were $1.29, $1.65. Now we're at $1.35 or something like that. It was $1.33 this year. It's $1.35 going forward. So that's where it's kind of leveled off. But we had a spike a couple of years ago, and that was an anomaly. But we cut the budget after that when we did the contract. We typically do the contract in April or May. I don't expect to see any sizable increase in the per gallon, they call it gallon, of propane for the buses. So I'm comfortable with the budget as a whole for energy. There may be a swing between electric, gas, and propane, but for the most part, I'm comfortable that next year we can live within the same budget that we have for this year. And like I said, if public benefit or somehow disappear,
Which you thought it was going to, right? We all did.
I know, but every time Mr. Champagne tells me it's not. So, and he apparently has better information than I do. So, I thought it was last April of last year.
Yes, that's what
And
we,
then I heard September. Well, it's January.
It's still here.
And, by the way, it's still in my home bill too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
everybody,
so,
this is one part of our budget that I think people can definitely relate to, because everyone sees their home electric bill go up, and then you say, well, multiply it by 100, if not more, for the school system. So it's,
No, I mean, everybody in this room has probably sat there and looked at their bill. Are you kidding me? $500, $600 for an electric bill for a month? I mean, that's more than you spend for food. But any event, in the course of what we're trying to project, I mean, we're trying to mitigate this out of control situation with better controls, better monitoring of the systems, better maintenance.
Can I ask an unrelated timeline question?
Yes.
With the increase to the state health insurance plan, what is the timeline? I know they've told us 13.5. When does that get set in stone, just to place against our budget process?
I think it's in the spring. This is our first renewal year, so I wasn't tracking it, but last year, we had the numbers, I believe it was around April.
between April and early May.
And we'll clearly know before we recast the whole budget when we, I have to know before I go out and open enrollment at the end of May,
Yes.
so I can determine what the new rates and stuff are. I would say probably April. I just don't have a sense for it because it's not something we dealt with in the past. I know with the commercial carriers, we started talking 20% in January, and we didn't figure out where we were until May. And then since we're not making a move
Right.
this year, there's not going to be a mad scramble. We're just going to have to wait for the numbers. But I think they probably already know. They put out a document
Right.
that said what they believed the increases were going to be county by county. And we, New Haven County, were 13.5. So
I would hope by April,
I can't
definitely
imagine
end of
we
April.
put that out and come in less.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll shock me, but we'll see how that works out.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just want to make a general comment that I'm going to make several times throughout this process, and I made several times last year as well, for what good it did me. According to the most recent data from the state, Seymour ranks 208 out of 220 school districts in per pupil expenditure, put us in the bottom 6% of spending. Per pupil expenditure is a great equalizer across the districts. If you were to look at some of the districts that are in that range, I don't think anybody in this town would be awfully proud to be in that company. So we are getting a great value for what we spend right now, and it's disappointing that our hands are tied to such a degree that we are presenting another roll-forward budget, and that's going to end up being our best-case scenario when we rank so shamefully in per-pupil expenditure.
Very low. And that's, that the town of Seymour needs to realize this is, we're doing the best with what we have. And the tax revenue and a lot of different issues, the assessments went up, there's just a lot of variables. But we are, like I said, we're very low. I'm glad you gave that specific, because I knew it was down near the bottom, but.
Can I ask, because this is a roll forward, but roll forward with less, what is the impact of reducing that science teacher? What does that mean in
Enrollment-wise, we're okay with making that work.
So students will still be able to
Yes.
take the courses that they need and that they desire.
Not easy, but, I mean, we've got a principal and an assistant principal and a counseling department with the scheduling. I mean, it's hard to give up a position, but, you know, who knows down the road, you may have to come back and ask for that position. So that's what our town, our community members need to know as well. This is based right now on what we can live for next year.
So the speech and language pathologist within this budget, it lives in the IDEA grant?
Basically, with the amount of kids that we're going to be bringing some back that are out of district, and that's how we plan on paying for that, as well as the 3 paraeducators. And I think we can, because we're down to like 17. I mean, we really went down 19. It can vary. It fluctuates. So you never know who's going to move in either, but with the amount of how he's been able to reduce, it's,
So like the supplies, though, that adjustment will have to be made in our
yes,
final numbers.
yes, yeah.
For the additional CARES classroom that needs the 3 paraprofessionals, what does that do to overall special education teacher caseloads? Because there'll be one less special education teacher who's serving as a resource or fill-out teacher.
We think with the variation of the 3 care rooms, and specifically like one care room may have some of the kids that are a little bit more higher achieving, and we also think with 3rd and 4th and 5th grades with caseloads that we can make it work. We've got a good special ed staff over there, and I think we're going to be okay. That's what we're trying to do with what we have.
And the outfitting of that classroom will be part of your consideration where we're reducing supplies?
Yes,
Because
yeah.
there will be some supplies
Right,
needed.
absolutely. We have 2 equipped, we got to do a 3rd.
No, I mean, I just think, you know, the state needs to step up. You know, I don't think it's fair to put all the pressure and the guilt and shame on the residents of Seymour. You know, and the state could do more to help the towns with the expenses, especially with the mandates and things that they're requiring. It's unfortunate.
If I could just piggyback on there, one of the other discussions we had this morning with the CAVE thing is, we also need to contact our federal legislators. You know, our congressmen and our senators,
Until
for
there's a
them
change
to speak up
on those levels.
at the level and fight to get more funding from the federal level.
Those are the grants that have stayed the same. At least we get smallish increases from the state.
Right.
Albeit it would be great if they were steady every year instead of X
Yeah.
percent and then down the next year, but it's the federal that's largely stayed flat.
And need an insurance, everything, you know, the state, electric, I mean, it's, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a-
actually
It's not
kind of
fair to
wacky
the taxpayer.
to charge a public institution the public benefit. That actually doesn't make logical sense.
That's a true statement. But with the federal, I mean, basically, they haven't increased since COVID. They've actually decreased in some situations.
I don't think we're the public they're talking about.
But we should be.
I agree with you, but as long as we continue to pay our bills, we're not in that category. I'm not suggesting we don't pay our bills, I'm just.
I just wanted to come up with a number because I don't want to go to the Board of Finance and they say, cut this, we're not going to accept this. We don't want to play games, this is exactly what we need. So I don't want to go to a place or downtown and say, cut this, cut this. No, this is what we must have to take care of what we have. And like I said, yeah, we're 206, whatever, we're low. as far as the per pupil expenditures. And like I said, if we didn't have such outstanding staff and administration and a good Board of Ed and how that we operate in administration, we wouldn't have this success.
Your PowerPoint would have been a lot shorter, Dr. Conklin.
That's right.
You didn't have such great staff.
That's right, but, you know, somewhere down the road, somebody's gonna have to pay the piper, because it's gonna get to a point to where, okay, what are you gonna do? But, you know, it's a situation to where this is currently where we are, you know, what's gonna pass in this town, and where are our, you know, we've got parents who care about the quality of this educational system, and grandparents, and older people who care. And they don't want the quality of the school system to go down. And I know that nobody wants that for Seymour. And we're competing against other people that, for example, I'll say this, and I commend Oxford that they can do it. They have double the board office that we have. They have double the administrators that we have. They really do. And a lot of these places have so many more people.
I think when we look at our contractual increases, all of our unions really
Yeah.
worked with us this round. When you look at the teacher's contract that just came out of Derby, you know, the next time we negotiate, it's gonna look a little different because those statewide numbers
Yeah.
are something that's shared with the committee and that the mediators and the arbitrators really rely on, so.
Well, they actually put in the paper that Derby was going on the percentage of, because of Seymour and Shelton. That's what they used as their defense and why they needed an increase, because, you know, whatever.
So I make a motion that the board adopt the superintendent's budget of $43,219,819.
I'll second.
I'm not actually sure that is her budget. I think that might be the roll forward.
No,
It's legal roll forward.
it's one that's in her presentation. It's, if you look at the,
It's 43,291,
291?
819.
Okay.
I'll double
Roll
check,
forward,
yeah.
but that's fine, no problem.
Yeah.
no.
It's confusing.
This-
43,291,800. That's the number that's in the PowerPoint.
The first page. Roll forward. That's why I
That's
just-
the 4.7. Yeah.
Anyway, it's, this is superintendent's.
Okay,
Thank you.
So where's the
okay,
problem?
it's no problem.
Yeah, I don't know. He wants to know what's the problem.
We just want to make sure we have the right.
You want to get the right number for sure,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah, it's 43,291, 819.
Is the exact number.
Okay, great. So the motion is good.
So discussion, now we do have allocated another workshop for next week. If folks wanted to come forward, wanted to take a closer look, and come forward with additions or reductions.
I certainly wouldn't push any reductions, and it doesn't sound like we're gonna get support on anything higher, so I think we should just go with this.
Any other comments?
I agree with Stefan. It's a long road between here and the start of our next school year, so
Yeah.
there are opportunities if more retirements come to do some reallocation, because it's awfully hard to plan for, we're planning 20 months out almost, right? We can't think about.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of going forward with this budget, bottom line budget.
And again, I'm going to give you the best information we have in the summer when it comes to allocating out things once everything settles into place.
Yeah.
There are certainly enough things on the table that are needed, that haven't been directly funded, and hopefully maybe we'll be able to find some areas in which find some jewels, and we can do some of those things, and that's a discussion I think you can have later. I think Dr. Compton's conversations with me have been, what can we realistically expect to be able to fund for next year in terms of dollars and cents. Not so much the percentage. The percentage is what everybody looks at, but it's really the dollars. When you look at the dollar increases, it's not a lot. When you look at the percentage, you know, you're looking at the budget. If we had these same percentages, I'm not going to say it because it just sounds stupid. But if you look at the percentages, it's really, the percentages are just a function of the denominator. You know, really the focus should be on where are we spending our dollars for next year. And there's work to do down the road in terms of figuring out the best allocation of those dollars. But this is the best information we have today based on what we know today.
I would hope also that if there's an increase in the educational cost share that comes to the town, some of that might be allocated toward school spending as well.
Yes.
All right, all right. All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? Superintendent's budget becomes the Board of Education.
I just want to say, in conclusion, I want to thank the Board of Ed. This is hard. You know, in some ways, it's heartbreaking that we can't give our kids more and more resources. It truly is, when you look and reflect what other places have that we don't have. But we know where we currently are, and the board is supporting us, me, in this recommendation, and it's hard because we're not getting all that we would love to have. But I also don't want to be challenged. I hope the Board of Finance will listen. The town of Seymour as well, right, Mr. Miller? That you all are going to support this budget, and they ain't going to say cut, because if you do, I'm going to explode. I mean, this is hard, and this has been going on here for 4 years.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, oh, I know, since I've been here 4.5 years, but when I first interviewed here, I found out the budget process here is like no other. And I remember Kristen Harmley warning me, I don't think you understand the budget process here in Connecticut. Well, guess what? I sure didn't. But it's different in other states. And it's,
Seymour has its own little special meeting.
yes, it does.
It's different in other towns.
Yes.
And I think that's something, you know, we saw a lot of support for the schools at the referendum. But I think if you move into town from a different community, you don't know how much your vote matters and how much going to
yes.
our hearings, going to the town meeting, you don't know how much that matters. So that's the important word that we have to get out to all of our community members.
Absolutely.
I mean, where I live, I don't even know. So, you know, the towns, these city people, I suppose, can be oblivious to it all and let the aldermen who vote after the Board of Finance, you know, take the reins, and really it's not unless there's some threat to a school or, you know, a couple of years ago they threatened Harborside in Milford, and Harborside is like Bungie, and that got everybody up in arms. So they figured out what button to push, but again, the taxpayers aren't required to engage. And I'm not sure that's a better process. It's an easier process, I think, because you only have to beat up 7 aldermen, but I don't know if it's a better process. I think the process here with the taxpayers having to plug in, it gives them ownership of this. And I think that's, well, we know how dangerous that is, but we also know that I think it's fair to say that the taxpayers are, you know, really should be engaged in the education of the children in town. They really should.
And to their credit, they were.
They were. We love our Seymour
Well, not only
community, and
Yeah, no, to their credit, they were at the referendum.
absolutely, 80%. 80% was amazing.
Yes.
And we love our school
Show it can be
community
done. So,
for supporting it.
Catherine, do you have, I do not have a
No.
report.